Welcome to the 2017 State of the City. And when you hear the Lincoln drumline, you know it has to be the State of the City. So thank you from the home of the Abe's, the award-winning Lincoln drumline. Just a tad bit about the drumline. The band and the drumline are under the direction of Peter Briggs, and Peter uses music to motivate and teach his young people that they can accomplish great things as they excel individually and as they work together collectively. And they have never disappointed. Those of you who've been attending this over the last few years know that they come in with a purpose, and they are a wonderful group of young people. So thank you, Lincoln High School Drumline. I'm Benish Brown. I'm president and CEO of Travel Tacoma and Pierce County. Our mission, thank you. We love having love. Our mission is to deliver tourism as an economic engine in our communities, but more specifically, it really is to get people to buy at our local businesses, spend their dollars at our local businesses in Tacoma and throughout Pierce County. Today I come before you again. It's an honor to welcome you to this event. The City of Tacoma, the Chamber, and I personally want to thank you for sharing your time here today. I know you're enjoying your meal, but if you would pause for just a second at this time, I would like for you to please rise for the presentation of our colors by the Foss High School Junior ROTC. Remain standing for the national anthem, which will be sung by Emily Cook with the Greater Tacoma Convention Center. Please remain standing until the colors have left the room. Thank you.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets rang glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, thank you. Emily, 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 Emily. You always do an amazing job, so emotional. Really stirs up a sense of pride, I'm sure, in all of us. Thank you also to the members of the FOSS High School Junior ROTC program. And get this, I don't know, many of you may be familiar with FOSS, but what I love is really the way the school describes itself. They say it's a place of grace, compassion, scholarship, and service. I love that. So thank you so much to the FOSS High School Junior ROTC. Let's give them all a hand, including Emily. Again, good afternoon. It's officially afternoon now. Welcome to the State of the City address by the Mayor of the City of Tacoma, the Honorable Marilyn Strickland. You should know that this event would not be possible without the generosity of a lot of extraordinary sponsors. And we do want to take time to thank those sponsors, have you thank them with us. Before we do that, though, we would like to recognize all of our elected officials who are here today. We're actually going to just be so inclusive here. This is going to be the most inclusive you've probably ever had. We want to recognize present and past elected officials. If you're joining us today, you are special. The fact that your busy schedules, you took the time out to join us today. Please stand, all past and present elected officials. Full disclosure, we were taking the safe route not to miss any names, so we thought we'd do it that way. I hope that's okay. Thank you. Now, because we also want, we like being inclusive, we also want you to have freedom of expression. So we're going to recognize our sponsors, and because instructions never work when we say please hold your applause as we call these names, I'll let you do this like you want to do it. Still at the end, we're going to have a group applause for all of the sponsors. But right now, I'd like to recognize them, our AV sponsor, Hardcastle AV, our corporate, oh, you're pretty good. Everybody stayed quiet. Look at you. Our corporate table sponsors, Business Health Trust, City of Tacoma City Council, City of Tacoma City Manager's Office, City of Tacoma Economic Development, City of Tacoma Finance Department, Northwest Seaport Alliance, Point Ruston, Puget Sound Energy, State Farm, Tacoma Community College, Tacoma Public Utilities, Washington Hospitality Association, Washington State University, and Workforce Central. Thank you all for your ginormous hearts and for your contributions to assist in making this event possible. Now, the entire room, let's show our gratitude. Thank you. One more selfish promotion. I am Benish Brown with Travel Tacoma and Pierce County, and we bring economic prosperity to our region through effective tourism. You should know, though, that the trend line for tourism in Tacoma and Pierce County over the past several years has been consistent growth, and we have reached the 1 billion mark in visitor spending. Thank you. And I thought I'd put this in perspective. So to put it another way, if you erase King County, that 800-pound gorilla, your county quite often is toggling back and forth with Spokane County, Spokane. My southern accent, I did say Spokane, I really did. We toggle back and forth with Spokane as the second largest tourism economy in the state, And Tacoma is a big part of where travelers go when they visit this destination. So hopefully you should be proud that you are one of the giant economic centers in the state when it comes to tourism. And thank you for all you do to support making visitors feel good here. Today's State of the City Luncheon is in collaboration with the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber. The theme, educate, connect, prosper, speaks as much to the values and ideals of the city as it does to the chamber. And now I'd like to introduce to you the person who brings these words into action for the Chamber of Commerce. He's held this position as president and CEO for 5 years and 9 months. Tom has strengthened and built ties countywide with leaders of community organizations. He's worked tirelessly and successfully to increase awareness of this award-winning chamber as the voice of business throughout the community. He has positioned the chamber to be recognized for its strong stance on business initiatives, and Tom is laser-focused on keeping the dialogue going about creating jobs in the new economy and distinguishing Pierce County as a jobs leader. So please join me in welcoming President and Chief Executive Officer of the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber, the one, the only, the man, Tom Pearson.
Well, thank you, Benish. I'm not sure if I should say anything after all that, but you know, the Tacoma Pierce County Chambers, we've got over 1,700 businesses countywide throughout Pierce County and actually into the South Sound, so it's beyond just Pierce County. And not too long ago, we embarked, and we as being the board, staff, leadership of the chamber, embarked on a 5-year strategic plan, 2021. And through that, we kind of shifted a lot of things. And I'll just share briefly, our vision of the chamber is to make South Sound the best place to do business in Washington State. And I think about, you know, what we've done in the last, you know, just few years, whether it's, you know, 5 years, hopefully 6. I've got a couple more months to go, but for myself. But in terms of this, just this last, coming through the economy and where we've gone and where we've shifted to. It's a new economy, it's a new region in terms of the direction we're going. But what's made us strong is leadership, and leadership matters. And I look around this room at individuals in this room, it's you. It's people at home, it's them stepping up and letting their voices be heard. But I look at the mayor and the work that she has done tirelessly, day in and day out, on behalf of all of the citizens within the city of Tacoma. She's taken on issues that I know she would rather not step into. But she's brought people together, people that agree with her, don't agree with her, you know, left, right, in between, doesn't matter, any walk of life. Brought people together, and that's in part with who we are in Tacoma, in Pierce County, in the South Sound. Let's get rid of what divides us and look at what brings us together, what we can do together. So that's what I love about our mayor. She is always bringing people, working hard, tirelessly every day, and I wish we could say this is going to be one of another 4 years for the mayor here, but we know as her term is coming to an end, it's been an honor for the past 8 years to be in partnership and work together to find solutions for this community. So thank you very much. Appreciate the partnership here to bring everybody together to hear the state of the city this year in 2017.
Thank you very much, Tom. And we're kind of on the same path because my comments as we bring up the person you've come to listen to today are on the same lines as what Tom said. It's been said that it's easy to sit up and just take notice, but the challenge quite often is getting up and actually taking action. Throughout her term, our mayor has been a person of action. The Honorable Marilyn Strickland is serving her second term and her last year as mayor of the city of Tacoma. And if you were to ever research the question, what makes a great mayor, her picture would pop up. Not only does she have all the classic leadership traits we associate with a city leader, like being an engaging speaker, having charisma, and having that knack of paying attention to those things, large and small, that are important for the city to work efficiently and effectively. But there's more. I think these additional attributes are the things that also make this mayor, our mayor, great. She has an instinctive and total love affair with this city. Having grown up here, going through the public school system, and serving this community in many capacities, even before becoming mayor. Her personal bicultural background has equipped her well to be at the forefront in candidly discussing racial issues and leading efforts to reduce racial tensions in our city and throughout this region. And finally, she works every single day in shaping this city so that we might have that great urban success story that we all love to tell. A story of quality education, a story of jobs, of prosperity, of business growth, a story of community and neighborhood vibrancy, a story where those who are homeless are finding hope and help, and a story of national and international recognition of this waterfront city. So, ladies and gentlemen, with her report on the state of the city of Tacoma, please join me in welcoming Mayor Marilyn Strickland.
Oh my God, these lights are bright. Thank you. Well, thank you very much for that very generous introduction and for your kind words, both Tom Pearson and Benish Brown. On behalf of the City of Tacoma, the Tacoma City Council, thank you for taking the time to attend today's 2017 State of the City Address. I'd also like to give a special welcome to Lauren Walker Lee, who's returned to fill a vacancy for 1 year and brings with her a wealth of knowledge and experience to help us tackle the issues that we face in 2017. A special thank you to the Tacoma-Pierce County Chamber of Commerce and its CEO, Tom Pearson, for their collaboration in the production of this event. And thank you, Benish Brown, for always serving as an MC extraordinaire and working hard every day to showcase our community and promote tourism and show off this beautiful corner of the world that we call home. Finally, a special thank you to my house band, the Lincoln High School Drumline, led by music teacher Peter Briggs, and Emily Cook, who does one of the best renditions of the national anthem that I have ever heard. Thank you, Emily. So when we think about the future and where we're going as a city, it's important to remember our past and our history. And a few decades ago, it probably would have been accurate to describe Tacoma as a polluted industrial town on the decline. Many industries operate in our city and along our shores, long before the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency existed and started doing work in 1970. And each decade in Tacoma afterwards seemed to have its own set of challenges with violence and a negative reputation that we just could not shake. But behind the scenes, things were happening. Waterfront property was being purchased. Historic buildings were being saved. Environmental remediation was taking place. Convention facilities, museums, and university was built. We were planning regional transit. Neighborhoods were being renewed. Slowly and surely, expectations started to change in Tacoma for the better. Today, I describe Tacoma as an international waterfront city that is now a leader in education, the arts, and environmental stewardship. And in 2010, we were still reeling in the recession. Unemployment was 12% in Tacoma. The high school graduation rate was 55%. And the Fitch rating agency gave Tacoma's financial position a negative outlook. Today, that unemployment rate has been cut in half, although 6% is still too high for my taste. We need to do better. The high school graduation rate is now 85%, higher than the state average. And Fitch has given us a financial outlook that has gone from stable to positive. We are going in the right direction. We went from making $60 million worth of cuts to government in 2012 to actually restoring services in 2016. Now, this is not a green light to go on a spending spree. We must stay disciplined with our finances, but grow our tax base responsibly so that we can provide more essential services for our entire community. Now, last year I delivered the 2016 State of the City address entitled Better Together. 2 years ago, my address was entitled Tacoma Rising, and 3 years ago, it was Tacoma 2.0. In these addresses, I challenged us to open our eyes and fully appreciate what's good about this city, to view ourselves on a larger stage as part of the Seattle-Tacoma-Bellevue metropolitan region, with an airport named after us, and to understand that what happens outside of our borders and beyond can have a positive impact on what happens for local business and the people who call Tacoma home. Now, I don't believe you will ever hear a State of the City address that doesn't mention the need for more family wage jobs or the need to support innovation, entrepreneurship, and local businesses that are already here. And Tacoma is moving in the right direction. And there are opportunities today that did not exist just a few years ago. But these opportunities will only serve the greater good if we're willing to educate ourselves, to make the connections that will lead to prosperity. Or the theme for this year's State of the City address, educate, connect, prosper. And I say this with one caveat. Growth does not equate prosperity if it is not intentionally inclusive. So according to the Chinese lunar calendar, 2017 is the year of the rooster, a year where we can expect drama and productivity. For Tacoma, it will also be a year of transition. A new president has taken office. Governor Inslee was reelected and is focused on getting our state to finally meet its paramount duty to fully fund education. And that has ramifications here in our local community. It means that we can use local levy dollars to do things to supplement basic education. So please support Governor Inslee and our state legislature in their quest to fully fund education. It will impact us right here at home. We elected a new county executive. Bruce Nahmeyer is here. Welcome, Bruce. Nice to see you. And the residents of Tacoma this year will elect 4 new council members, including a new mayor. And before that happens, the current city council and this community will embark on selecting a new city manager, a decision that I describe as the most important decision that this council makes. Now, the bar was set high by T.C. Broadmax, who left us for Dallas. And I don't view that as a detriment. That's a compliment. The fact that there was so much good work happening in Tacoma that he caught the eye of one of the 10 biggest cities in America and is going to work there. That's a compliment about good things happening in this city. As we select the new city manager, the decision will come down to a few things. Who is the most qualified candidate who can help move our city forward by implementing the vision set forth in Tacoma 2025? Who can move us forward by setting forth the implementation plan for the council's priorities and doing it in a way that is fiscally responsible, equitable, and inclusive? And I invite those of you who are here today or anyone who's watching on television to please participate in the community engagement events when we start to select a city manager. Your input matters. And in the meantime, city employees come to work every single day working toward the goals stated in Tacoma 2025. The vision that strives to improve our neighborhoods, diversify our economy, prepare our workforce, become leaders in educational attainment, have strong and inclusive civic engagement, and include equity and empowerment in every decision that we make. And while 2017 is my final year as mayor, it's only February, so I'll be here for another 11 months. And we're going to work really hard because we have a big list of things we want to do this year. So because this event is hosted by the Chamber of Commerce and has a slant toward economic development, I want to share a few things that we can look forward to in 2017 that are the result of collaboration by many community partners in the past years, both the public and private sectors. Now, when I started composing this list, there were about 6 or 7 things. I think there are about 19 things on them now, so just stay with me. Tacoma was recently ranked as one of the hottest housing markets in the U.S. for rental construction with a vacancy rate of 3%. There are nearly 2,000 housing units scheduled to break ground this year in various neighborhoods throughout the city. We were once a city where population was completely flat or losing. People are choosing to move here now. That's good news for everyone. More than 3 million square feet of industrial space for logistics are planned in the Tide Flats and our light industrial areas, including Netherlands-based New Cold, a state-of-the-art cold storage facility that will be located in South Tacoma and will bring 100 family wage jobs to the neighborhood. Historic preservation is high on our list, and we're very proud to announce that the Washington Building downtown will be renovated into residential, and we took the liberty of buying Old City Hall to preserve this amazing community asset. In partnership with Joint Base Lewis McChord, Multicare Health Systems, the University of Washington Tacoma will open a biotech incubator near campus later this year. The continued growth of Point Ruston. Where is Lauren Cohen? Every time I blink, there's an announcement for more condos, more apartments, more retailers, and more restaurants. This example of public-private partnership is one of the crowning jewels of our city and our entire waterfront. Thank you for believing in Tacoma. We recently signed a purchase and sale agreement with a housing and retail developer from Vietnam to build a mixed-use project on 11th and Tacoma Avenue in the space currently occupied by the library parking lot. We've broken ground on housing projects in the Stadium District, the most densely populated neighborhood in Pierce County. And you can expect to see more restaurants, more housing, all driven by the anticipation of light rail extending there. We are in the final design of expansion of Tacoma Link from our theater district to the Stadium and Hilltop neighborhoods. And Pierce Transit, which serves the greater Tacoma region with bus and shuttle service, has restored over 50,000 hours since the recession. That's great news for people who rely on transit service. We received a 3-year grant from the U.S. Department of Commerce and have opened a Minority Business Development Association office right at City Hall in partnership with the World Trade Center and Bates Technical College. This will provide assistance to minority-owned businesses in Tacoma, and it will serve the entire region. And speaking of small business, Tacoma was one of 13 cities, along with Chicago, Memphis, Pittsburgh, and LA, named a Maker City by online retailer Etsy.com. They promote local businesses, and we've started a Made in Tacoma movement because of this designation. If you look around various neighborhoods, people are buying homes, renovating them, and putting them back on the market. And this is happening in some of our most distressed neighborhoods, attracting needed investment and improving the quality of life in those neighborhoods. The Northwest Seaport Alliance container volumes reached 3.6 million, the highest level since 2007. And the Port of Tacoma is investing nearly $150 million in infrastructure to keep us competitive and to retain those important family wage maritime jobs. In 2016, the city paved over 400 blocks and leveraged $4 million in new revenue to get $20 million of grants for design and construction of roads and arterials. The roads measure passed by Tacoma voters in 2015 has allowed us to leverage federal funds to do more work. The city of Tacoma is busy in Olympia, too. We've introduced House Bill 1495 that will allow cities with populations of 50,000 or more outside of King County to reinvest local sales and property taxes into newly constructed or rehab buildings of at least 50,000 square feet. This is important because we need more Class A office space in downtown Tacoma, and doing this makes it pencil out and helps close the gap for many developers. In 2017, we will host the 2017 Minor League All-Star Game right here at Cheney Stadium, thanks to the leadership of the Tacoma Rainiers. Tickets are already selling at a rapid pace, and we can expect visitors from around the country. 2017 is also going to be another year where we're going to host the Festival of Sail, previously known as Tall Ships, back to Tacoma and one of the few West Coast destinations. We're making much-needed upgrades to the seating and facade of the Tacoma Dome. Not $500 million NBA NHL style, but enough to make sure that we have modern seating, modern facilities, and a better streetscape when you see it. As a welcoming city, we will form an immigrant and refugee task force because it's the right thing to do and it's smart economics. And I'll spend more time on that later. And our international presence continues to grow. More schools want to partner with us, more students from abroad want to study here, and more of our students expressed an interest in traveling abroad. Just this last year, Korea National University of Education, the premier college that trains teachers, sent over a total of 350 administrators to Tacoma to learn about what we're doing here as they earn their principal credentials. That's a great compliment to our school district and the work that they're doing. Now, when it comes to actually creating jobs, government actually has somewhat of a limited role in what we can actually do. We don't control the market, and the market is often dynamic and grows organically. We can hire people to work directly in government. We can support policies and practices that make it easier to do business in our city, and we can invest in infrastructure and transportation. I'm so pleased to say that every opportunity to invest in infrastructure over the past few years has been approved by the state legislature or by local and regional voters. These investments are crucial to our local and regional economy to move people and goods more efficiently and to improve safety. Transit use improves the environment and our quality of life, and those of us who promoted those investments highlighted job creation in both the public and private sectors. So think about this. Between the passage of the $16 billion transportation in 2015 by the state legislature, the passage of the $325 million street repair package in Tacoma, and the $54 billion investment that we'll make in Sound Transit, the Central Puget Sound is probably making the biggest investment ever in infrastructure and transportation. And what does that mean? It means lots of family wage jobs in construction and professional services, including engineering and planning and architecture and related fields. Now, compound that with the construction boom happening in the metropolitan Seattle area. We have a lot of jobs that are coming online in the next 25 years. But are we ready to have people prepared to fill those positions? Depending on who you ask, yes or no. Conservative estimates forecast that there will be more than 220,000 direct and indirect jobs from these investments, and that's a low number. So we need to ask ourselves if we're ready to help as many people as possible get access to jobs that pay on average $60,000 a year plus benefits. This will require partnerships from both the private and public sectors and an aggressive workforce development strategy. So this year's theme, Educate, Connect, Prosper, is influenced by opportunities to get more people employed in jobs during this construction boom and massive investment in infrastructure. Ask someone what they think about the job situation. Some people will tell you there aren't enough jobs that pay well. Others will tell you they can't find qualified workers to do the work. And others will tell you that there aren't enough people choosing to go into professions to do this work. It's a bit of all of the above. So what I want to do is talk about the fact that we lack a comprehensive system that brings all parties to the table to discuss how we create a continuum of services. There's a term called collective impact, and those of you who work in education and social services know how this works. You have a continuum of issues that you're trying to address to solve a problem. You bring everyone together, you identify barriers, you come up with solutions, and you work together for outcomes. Collective impact is the way that Tacoma Public Schools went from 55% to 85% graduation. And it's a way for us in Tacoma to ensure that we have a workforce that is qualified and ready to do the work that we know is coming online. So here's my challenge, Tacoma. The city is willing to convene a summit this spring, and we have a name for it, Tacoma Works. We're going to spend half a day or more evaluating issues and developing solutions to get more people employed and get them better access to jobs through this massive investment we're making in infrastructure. Let me give you a hypothetical situation. Janet Jones is a 25-year-old woman who has a variety of part-time jobs. She's actually interested in becoming a crane operator, but can't get into an apprenticeship program because her driver's license was suspended for unpaid parking tickets. She barely makes enough money now to cover rent and living expenses. How can we help her in a timely way that puts her on a fast track to pursue becoming a crane operator? Another hypothetical example. Bill James is a project manager for an architecture firm. His company is crazy busy right now, and he can't keep up with the demand for work. He's actually going to have to run ads in Southern California, in the Bay Area, to find entry-level and mid-level positions to hire in his architecture firm because he can't find people here. Another example is Daniel Crawford. He's a college freshman who wants to major in a high-demand field. He's always liked drawing plans and wants to consider getting training in CAD. These are three hypothetical examples of people who can't find work, who can't find employees, or on a career path. By having this convening, I think we have the ability to get everyone at the table and to figure out how we create a continuum so that we're connected with each other, we're talking to each other, and we know where the jobs are. So at a minimum, I will ask the following groups to be partners. Tacoma Public Schools, you have experience with me with Summer Jobs 253 and your Tide Flat certification. Tacoma Housing Authority, Puyallup Tribe of Indians, City of Tacoma Public Works, Sound Transit, Pierce Transit, and the Washington State Department of Transportation. Nonprofit organizations, Workforce Centrals. They now offer an essential skills class. Does it need to be expanded to prepare people for apprenticeships? Our community and technical colleges and our universities. The contracting community, general contractors, subcontractors, and everyone who works in construction. The Urban Land Institute, our entire labor community, the Minority Contracting Association, people looking for work. We need to get everyone to the table together to talk about what's working, to talk about what's not working, and to develop solutions so that we can take advantage of these huge investments in infrastructure to make sure that people who live in Tacoma have access to these jobs. Local economies depend on many things, but if we want our local businesses to grow, they need regular customers with spending power. Jobs that pay well help meet all of those goals. By bringing these groups together in a coordinated way, we can educate and connect with each other and help each other find work and become more prosperous. Now, switching gears, I'm going to talk a bit about public safety, one of the most important responsibilities that we have in city government. Last year, I shared with you the results of community engagement events for Project Peace. And Project Peace came about to make our city more safe through improved relationships between the police and the community, especially those affected by crime and poverty. We want to form positive relations between police officers and youth as well, and create a climate of mutual trust and respect. So how do we do? One of the outcomes and requests from the recommendations was that police officers should live in the communities they serve. I'm pleased to announce that of the recent group of hires, 30% of our new hires in TPD live in Tacoma. That's progress. We want to expand the Community Liaison Officer Program. We now have 17 CLOs, one of whom is part of the Homeless Outreach Team. People asked us to hire a more racially diverse police force that reflects the city that we serve. This has always been a priority for the city. And in the last 2 years, the demographics of the new hires actually reflect 2010 census data. Body cameras were requested. In 2016, TPD formed a work group and has identified a pilot program that will be rolled out in mid-2017 to test body cameras. Ongoing efforts to educate the police force on institutional racism and cultural bias. A cadre of commission officers were certified to teach fair and impartial policing. To date, 250 commission officers have received this training. That's how you lean in, that's how you participate. And improving relationships with youth. The Boys and Girls Clubs and Safe Streets have held youth academies in which middle school youth learn about law enforcement, learn about their profession, and what it takes to become a police officer. These are future police officers in our community, but they're also young people who now have had positive interactions with law enforcement. These are the types of actions that help us have a peaceful city, a one where law enforcement better interacts with communities of color and underserved communities and helps keep us all more safe. I would be remiss if I did not describe human services needs. Last year, I talked about the desire to address homelessness on a regional level. And since then, I've convened several meetings with local mayors and elected officials. We have a legislative agenda down in Olympia right now to develop policies and resources to address the issues. But I will tell you honestly, I fear that the problem is going to get worse before it gets better. And I say that for a few reasons. Number one, people are getting priced out of housing, and there's not enough affordable housing. Number two, we need more resources countywide. Tacoma is a city of 205,000 people. The county has nearly 750,000 people. We need greater dispersion of human services, of homeless shelters, of emergency shelters throughout the entire county so that Tacoma is not carrying a disproportionate burden of providing those services. But we also have to realize, too, that homelessness is not just an urban issue. It affects rural communities, suburban communities, and urban communities. But we must look at a regional approach to trying to solve this problem. And it won't be easy. There are many factors that contribute to homelessness. People have mental health issues. People have substance abuse issues. But one of the most common reasons people find themselves homeless is because of domestic violence. So we need to look very carefully at how we are dealing with domestic violence and making sure that we're providing ample resources to people who are trying to flee it so they don't find themselves on the streets without a place to live. I'm proud to say that we are partnering with Multicare and Franciscan, and several cities in the area have made a contribution to help build a much-needed 110-bed mental health facility at Allen Moore. Now, we know that Pierce County is grossly underserved when it comes to beds for these services, but we're good. We're happy to do this in Tacoma, but this is a start. So it shouldn't be a conversation of why isn't it over there? It should be this and, this and. We need more beds, more facilities throughout the entire community, throughout the entire county. So I'm very hopeful that this will be a good example of how it can work, that we can actually put these beds in many different places in Pierce County so that we can make sure that everyone is covered and that we have a chance to deal with some of the most tough structural problems. We are going to build a youth shelter and drop-in center in South Tacoma. And it has been nearly 30 years since Pierce County has had this facility. Now, I know that this has been a bit controversial for people, and change is always something that we don't adapt to, especially when we don't know about the population. But I want to make sure that people in the neighborhood understand the service provider and the city are dedicated to making sure that these youth stay safe. And we're doing something a little different because this is a drugstore that's been empty for over a decade. We're taking the bottom retail portion and we're going to add a social enterprise business, whether it's a coffee shop or a restaurant. And then we will provide services for these young people to come in and get drop-in service, but also to spend the night if they need to. We understand that there are concerns, and we want to make sure that the neighborhood is safe and that these young people stay safe. But I am confident that if we come together, we can actually make this a community asset and an example of what can work well. The homeless youth that we house today is the person who doesn't become a homeless adult down the road. It's a good investment, it's worthy, it's compassionate, and it's who we are, and it's something that we need to do. So as an international port city, and a city that is the most trade, and a state that is most trade dependent, it is incredibly disappointing and disheartening to hear some of the rhetoric from the November election that continues today. Fear and isolation will not bring back jobs, and it won't make us more safe. Rhetoric that demonizes trade when we know that automation is a primary reason jobs have been lost in manufacturing while productivity continues to rise. Plans we hear about to build expensive walls and damage alliances when we should cultivate relationships and strive for cooperation that is mutually beneficial. Propose policies that discriminate against people for their faith, their country of origin, their immigration status, and grandstanding that does not make us look strong, but makes us seem weak, uninformed, and does more to compromise our safety, not make us more safe. Language that has become normalized, when before we'd be embarrassed to say these things in public. We're better than this. But going back to our history, it's not the first time our nation or our city has been down this path. There was a time when we expelled the Chinese from Tacoma. We sent Japanese Americans to internment camps. And we watched banks engage in the practice of redlining to discriminate against African Americans and other minorities when it came to mortgage lending. As a result, we segregated neighborhoods, and we've deprived many of generational wealth. Now, we can't change the past, but we can vow to do better. And one way we're doing better is our commitment to be an open and inclusive city. In 2015, under the leadership of Councilmember Marty Campbell, Tacoma joined the Welcoming Cities movement, a group of cities and counties across the nation that value contributions of immigrants and refugees and view them as assets to our community. And here's some facts. Immigrants and refugees are more likely to start businesses, actually 30% more likely than native-born Americans. Less likely to commit crime, more likely to be people of faith who have strong families. And they're not a monolith. They come from all over the world with diverse viewpoints, political positions, and customs. We also know that our police department works very hard with community policing, and it's important to have good, positive relationships with many of our communities because that's what community policing is based upon. Now, a welcoming city is part of a national network. You can go to welcomingamerica.org, and it works to create inclusive policies and practices that make it easier for entrepreneurs to start businesses or ensuring that government materials are available in multiple languages. We are guided by principles of equity, inclusion, and helping communities prosper by policies, practices, in a climate where all people feel welcome, including immigrants and refugees. And in case there is any confusion, let me state again that the Tacoma Police Department does not check the immigration status of those with whom they interact. It is not their responsibility to do the job of federal agents. They don't have the time or the resources and are more focused on addressing public safety and community policing in our city. And that's based on forming positive relationships with the community. I also want to state that any resident of Tacoma, regardless of their immigration status, has access to all city services. Now, in response to the current climate around this topic, Tacoma is going to form an immigrant and refugee task force to gain input and insight by hearing directly from the immigrants and refugees and learning what issues are most important to them and how we can better assist them. I would also like to invite you to attend a forum on February 16 at the University of Washington, Tacoma from 8:30 to 1 that will examine immigrant labor and the regional economy. And let me share a data point with you for their website. 15% of all business owners in Washington state are foreign-born, contributing $2.4 billion to the state economy. Based on the Immigration Policy Institute's report, Latinos and Asians, both foreign-born and native-born, wield $44.7 billion in consumer purchasing power, and the businesses they own had sales and receipts of $22 billion. They employed more than 94,000 people. That's the power of what happens when we welcome immigrants and refugees into our city. It's smart economics. So I'm going to switch gears a bit and talk about civic engagement and civility. The City Council had our annual retreat a few weeks ago, and this was a topic that was raised, and it came up for many reasons. Now, as the new administration in DC sorts out its relationship with Congress and the media and the rest of the nation, we have to focus on opportunities that are right in front of us at the local level. But I think it's important to understand something, and this is not lost on any of you. The tone and tenor of what comes out of Washington, D.C. can set the tone for the entire nation. And that tone can make us optimistic, or it can make us pessimistic. It can divide us, or it can unify us. It can sow fear and hate, or it can give us confidence and hope. If Tacoma has been successful for the past few years, it is because we've had a great relationship with our congressional delegation in D.C., but also with the White House and the federal government and a lot of agencies. A White House with a clearly stated urban agenda for metropolitan regions is necessary for cities to do well. The previous administration had one based on ladders of opportunity. They valued trade, and they want to uplift those who need help. Over the past 4 years, Tacoma has received over $200 million of assistance from the federal government. That's actually our money, by the way, that has helped us do everything from improve transit, to rebuild infrastructure, to build affordable housing for vulnerable families, to house homeless veterans, to support minority-owned businesses. That relationship with the White House has been crucial because they recognized us, they supported us, and they rewarded us for programs in education, in housing, and summer youth employment. We now live and govern in uncertain times. And as residents, as public servants, as business owners, and as voters. That's why it's incredibly important for us to pay attention, to educate yourselves, to become well-informed about the news and what's happening in the world. Your active and well-informed participation in civic life probably matters more now than it ever has. Now, there was a time when we got our news from 3 sources: the radio, TV, or print. The game has changed. Social media has democratized access to information, and it can be a really good thing. But the echo chambers of social media have become substitutes for civic and civil discourse, where people seek affirmation from like-minded people. It's replaced face-to-face conversations that allow active listening and disagreement based on facts. It's robbed us of the ability to explore nuances and details that solve our most pressing issues. So here's my unsolicited advice to all of you. Please get your news from legitimate publications and journalists. You know them. They're the ones that do research. They take time to check facts. They check facts once, twice, and 3 times. These are legitimate sources of news. These are the professionals. These are the people who do it right. Subscribe to your daily paper. Subscribe to magazines that you know you can depend on for real news. And talk to people in person, even those with whom you disagree. When you're on social media and you're texting or posting something, you don't have the benefit of facial expression and tone. Those little nuances can make all the difference in the world when we think about how we solve our big problems. Because sometimes, when it seems like we are a universe apart, we're actually not that far apart. And that's what we have to do, locally, in government, in business, all the places where we know we have big problems to solve, and we cannot necessarily rely on Washington, D.C. to get things done for us right now. Now, Bruce Katz of the Brookings Institution often points out that metropolitan regions and cities are the engines of our economy and at the forefront of progress that moves our nation forward. Local government has become the place where people have more expectations of public service because it's the part of government that consistently gets stuff done. There's no such thing as a pothole that's a Democrat or Republican. There's no such thing as garbage that needs to be picked up that claims a political party. Local government is about getting things done. And people come to us now to address many issues. But it also means that we in local government must rethink how we deliver services because the expectations have changed. People expect so much more out of us. And looking back on the past 7 years, the City of Tacoma, along with our residents, the private sector, education, government, and nonprofit partners, have accomplished a lot to help improve our local economy. We dug our way out of a hard, tough recession. We made education a civic priority, graduating more students and sending more of them on to 2-year and 4-year institutions. We passed a tax measure for the first time in 40 years to fix our streets. We got the state legislature to increase the gas tax to finish Highway 167 and Highway 509, which will make our ports so much more competitive. We passed Sound Transit 3. Tacoma voters voted yes for Sound Transit 3, the game changer that will connect the region to the South Sound. We developed and implemented a climate action plan and our leaders in stormwater management. We're trying to replace wood-burning stoves. We're trying to deal with auto emissions. We're trying to increase our tree canopy, taking active measures to improve the environment. Summer Jobs 253 is one of our great success stories. An idea that I got from President Obama at a conference has now blossomed into serving hundreds of students every summer with paid internships, financial literacy classes, and the ability to earn credit for high school graduation. We've raised the minimum wage and implemented a paid sick leave policy, and the voters of Washington State agreed to do the same. We've banned the box for City of Tacoma job applications because everyone makes mistakes, and we want to make sure that someone who has paid their debt to society is not kept from applying for a job with the city. We strengthened our Sister Cities program and have advanced international relations to promote education, tourism, and we are now attracting foreign direct investment into our city. We implemented Project Peace, a proactive approach to public safety, and we are improving police and community relations. Tacoma was at the forefront of marriage equality in Washington state. And we honored the will of the voters to provide safe and legal access to recreational and medicinal marijuana. We've opened an Office of Equity and Civil Rights. And in partnership with Metro Parks, we are going to have an East Side Community Center to meet the needs of the kids in that neighborhood. But there's more. We've made a financial commitment to help with the restoration and renovation of the historic Pantages and Rialto theaters. We've secured federal funding to expand Tacoma Light Link Rail to the stadium and Hilltop neighborhoods. We made a $30 million public investment a few years ago, and today what you see is Point Ruston in all of its glory. We're keeping public broadband accessible and affordable, especially given the recent ruling about net neutrality, which tries to limit who gets access to content. We're investing in historic properties like Old City Hall and the Washington Building, and infrastructure investments on Pacific Avenue, South Tacoma Way, Hilltop, the Dome District, and Lincoln are spurring beautification and efforts to attract private investment. We have raised our city's profile in a new way and regularly appear on best of lists that rank cities for arts, tourism, education, recreation, and quality of life. And that's just a partial list. So Tacoma 2025, the visioning process that included 3,000 our residents a few years ago, is propelling us forward. By 2025, we want to be a city of choice in the metro region. By 2025, we want to have a growing economy with an abundance of family wage jobs in a variety of key industries. By 2025, we will lead the region in educational attainment among youth and adults. And in addition to producing more graduates from high school and colleges, more college graduates will find jobs in our city, and lifelong learning and access to education will always be valued. By 2025, more Tacoma residents will be engaged, and the people who lead you will be a reflection of the entire community. And by 2025, we will ensure that all residents are treated equitably and have access to services, facilities, and financial stability. 2017 will be a big year in Tacoma. Now, we can't project what will happen in Washington, D.C., but we can control what happens right here at home. So let's finish what we started in 2010 when I first took office, and let's set the stage for the next chapter in Tacoma. Educate, connect, prosper for the city that is our destiny. The international waterfront city that is a leader in education, the arts, and environmental stewardship. The city that is accessible, welcoming, and treats all people with respect and dignity. A city that is imperfect, but strives to be better every single day because we are kind, we are compassionate, and we dream big with our feet firmly planted on the ground. Tacoma, a city that will be better educated, better connected, and therefore more prosperous. This is our destiny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you for informing us, for educating us, for inspiring us, and for speaking quite candidly to us. Thank you so much for sharing with us the state of the city for 2017. And this brings us to our close, so I get to speak to you, a wonderful audience. Thank you again for coming out today. And as you've heard, and I hope you will leave from here and find your own path, your own way to be involved in a city. Educate, connect, and prosper. On behalf of the Chamber, on behalf of the City of Tacoma, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.